Making videos, not spending any money. Hey there, Reed here. Just going to start a fun little experiment. I've done lots of stuff with MultEQ-X, and I even have my little Reaper mini DSP wannabe set up for my subs. And I'm watching this video, and I'll share a link with it, about how to set up, because I'm using Audyssey MultEQ-X, and use their curve import feature to add some, what is it, the UMIC1 REW curves directly into MultEQ-X. I've got the AC-M1X Audyssey mic that I'm using for my regular calibration. I want to see if making curves and importing them directly into Audyssey MultEQ-X is going to be better for that. We'll see how it goes.
Just have to wait a little while to do that. You can't do EQ work on the fly with Audyssey. You have to do the EQ work with this.
So I'm watching this video, and it's a long one, so maybe I'll give you guys the short version of it and then share my experience with it. The idea is that you use the Joe and Tell and Technodad's Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit, little Blu-ray disc, to generate test tones. They've got the pink noise generating and the sweep generation for up to, I think, 9.1.6, so you can get all your surround channels, and then once you have individual sweep measurements for every single one of your channels, you can then import the curves, the changes you've made in REW directly into your MultEQ-X to go into your AVR. And I'll walk through a lot of those steps as we go through them. And don't forget the most important part of any project: fuel. Fuel up. So the first step in the process is to open up a new calibration within Audyssey MultEQ-X, set up your calibration microphone and get it going. I have a fun configuration where I have a remote machine that I run it on, and then I just remote into it from a laptop in my living room, whatever your configuration is. Run one round of sweeps in your main listening position, or yeah, it should be in the main listening position. You're only running, for this first step, one set of sweeps for all your speakers using your AVR, using Audyssey MultEQ-X, to just get all of your levels and your phase, your distances. The reason being is we're going to do all the EQ outside, and we just need that one. Audyssey MultEQ-X, from what I understand, only does the distances and mostly levels based on that first position. It doesn't do an averaging of the distances or whatnot, or you can change it, but in general, you're doing it just for that main listening position. And so that's what you do. And then once you do that, you will have the one set of sweeps, the one calibration track in MultEQ-X, and then you can just disable that. It'll still take the levels, but it will get rid of all the EQ, and it'll show your aggregate view as just no activity. So it's also worth mentioning that even though MultEQ-X is about $200 US to pick up and locks into the AVR, I found a clever trick to make it somewhat portable. I kind of hate the idea that it's locked to not just that AVR, but also to me. So when you're setting up Audyssey MultEQ-X, you can create a new Microsoft account. Just create a outlook.com or whatever account using the serial number on your AVR, store the password somewhere, and then when you're logging into your Windows machine to purchase MultEQ-X, use that account to log into the machine, log into the store and purchase it. Then the MultEQ-X license will be associated with that account. And then I haven't done it yet, but in the future I could sell I've got a Denon X6700H that I could say includes a MultEQ-X license, and then I can give them the username and the password. They can just go in there, log in, do the same thing when they're using MultEQ-X, download it again, and it'll relicense. I tested this across multiple different machines in my own house. Works fine. You just have to make sure you don't lose that password. So if you set that up, then you can maybe not save a little bit of money, but then that license can be transferred when you get rid of your AVR down the road, when you upgrade to 6800 or whatever is your fancy. Just running these first sweeps in MultEQ-X to essentially just get the distances and the levels. So as you can see here, I have manually overridden the lower frequency limit and the higher frequency limit. They overlap, so there's just a lot of color. I've done this for the fronts, and I'm going to do this for all of the other ones, and then that will ensure that Audyssey MultEQ-X is just not doing anything to my system. So also when you're in the calibration settings, you'll want to change base management from auto to manual, and then set all of your speakers to large so that they are getting the full frequency range without any crossovers, any limitations. And then when you are running the REW, you'll do an extra LFE pass just for the subwoofer. I'm just transferring all of my settings to preset 2 on my Denon. That's where I can play around with the settings. I'll actually save a separate MultEQ-X configuration file just in case I want to push that nothing enabled baseline for future calibrations. But then when I start getting my EQ out of REW and putting into MultEQ-X, I'll throw it into that preset 2 as well, so I can have a comparison between my previous measurements and the new ones with this new method. All right, took a little break there, and now I'm back at it. So now I have run the calibration, just the basic one to get the levels and the distances, the phases for the Audyssey, so it's clear. And now I'm ready to load up the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit and run it directly in RTA in REW to get some results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the left front speaker first, and actually I'll show you how the RTA is doing. I'm not going to screen capture it, just capture it on my phone, but I'll switch to that. Okay, try that. Probably worth mentioning that this is what the settings should look like. So you click on the little gear icon in the RTA screen in the top right corner. On the left, you see the appearance settings. Bottom, you see the distortion settings. And on the right, you see the bass settings. That is what the video that I reference uses, and it provides some nice results. And we'll be using these RTA results to do our calibration, our equalization in the next steps. So take a look at that. Okay, it took a few times to get everything set up so you can quickly record it, all the settings in RTA and REW. But once it's set up, I'm going to quickly go through what it looks like to do the left front, and then I'll go through all the other ones and capture those as their own separate curves in REW. Okay, here we go. So here is REW with the RTA ready to go. All I have to do is hit the record button. I got my video of the guy and his calibration. I have my UMic 1 in the main listening position all hooked up to REW. And I've got the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit on the periodic pink noise with my proper speaker ready to go. So all I have to do is start this up. It takes a sec on my Blu-ray player. And then once it starts up, you'll hear it. Yep. So as you saw from the video of capturing the periodic pink noise in RTA and watching the counts go up, it only took about 105 before the changes started to really level off and the curve didn't change anymore. So just watch the curve. You might find you have to get more cycles, more averages out of it. But it was pretty quick. It only takes longer, or yeah, it takes longer to do the sweeps in Audyssey. So in RTA, once you have done your averaging, sorry, this isn't the curve, but just to show you in RTA, you click the Save Current button, and then what that'll do is, and this is the one I recorded for the front right, it will put that measurement into the rest of REW, and then you can carry on to the next one. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll open up RTA again and switch to the front left, or front right, sorry, now. Periodic pink noise in the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit, and do a recording and carry on. So do this for all of the ones that you want to do your own custom measurements for. Just having some carrots. Oh my god! So that's how they make them. All right, it's a few hours later. I did the RTA sweeps, the running through of all of the rest of the different speakers. And then when I went in to REW, I generated the new target curves for all of them. And then I threw those target curves into Audyssey MultEQ-X, uploaded it, and it sounds really great. I would say it's not substantially better than the calibrated Audyssey mic, but I do really like the sound of it. It sounds fuller, like the sound is coming out at me more. I'm going to have to play a little bit more with the settings. Maybe I'll go over some of the things, the specifics I went into right now. So I'll just quickly go over some of the stuff I did in REW to show you the process. It's quite repetitive, but essentially I downloaded and put a Harman curve. I just wanted a curve, waiting for Joe and Tell to release his magic beans so I can build my own curves that work better for my room. And then in REW, I just ran RTAs. You go into the RTA section, and then you have your UMIC 1 set up and Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. You run the periodic pink noise for each of the different speakers while you record it. I showed you the settings in that other part. And then when you're done, you click current. Usually when it's about 100, it slows down, but I gave it a good 160 to 180 averages. And then you click the current one to toss that over into your measurements. And this is one of them. This is for the front left. And then I went through all the rest of my channels. And then once I had all of them, I can go in. There's a nice little feature where did they put that one? I think it's in all SPL. You go in there and trace arithmetic, and then you essentially put Harman curve in the first one, and then whichever one that you're generating the compensation curve that you're going to put into Audyssey MultEQ-X, you do A divided by B, click generate. That will then throw in a target. So this is the front left. Let's close that one. This is the front left here, and then this is the front left curve. And I did that for all of them. And then the next step is kind of straightforward, but it's a little bit of monkeying back and forth between the two ones. So I liked to compare to see how it looked. So I would go to all SPL. I'd have the Harman curve, and let's look at front left and the front left curve. The thing you have to do though is, because when you generate the curve, it's way down in the bottom. You have to go into SPL and phase for the curve, and then go line SPL and set it. I set it up to 70, and this is something that I might change when I go through this again, but this will move it up. And then when you go to all SPL, it compares them and shows them side by side, and you can see how the Harman curve kind of it's a little below, but it is what the generated one is based off of. So anyway, that's how you get the curve. That's just a sanity check, but it's easy enough. Once you get the curves, then you go back in to the individual one, go into align SPL. So at the end, I kind of set them all up to 70, all the target curves up to 70, and then set them back down to 0, because you want to set them back down to 0, because once you have all of your curves, you go into the file, export, and you export it as text. And then I'll have a short little thing right after this to show you what to do with that. So like I just mentioned, once you have your curves that are generated based on your Harman curve or your house curve or whichever curve you're using, if you want to go for flat, that works too. The big point of this in Audyssey MultEQ-X, you can have pretty much any curve you want. You can have flat, you can have mid-range compensation, you can have the theater roll-off. The point of this is to use whatever curve you want, but you're using the power of the UMIC1 and REW's RTA feature to get some more accuracy in your measurements and into your settings in MultEQ-X. So once you have those curves in there, what you need to do is then export it all out as text files. MultEQ-X likes them really plain. So the guy in the other video went over a lot of these settings. I set mine all to about 100 to 20,000 hertz for my custom range, and I use smoothing of the measurement. That's the higher resolution, and I disabled the one of these settings, so I just made sure that they're all disabled. When you take a peek at the output, you'll see that there's some header information, and when we get into the text files, you'll see that you have to edit that out. So you click OK, and then you put it into wherever you need it to be. So that's what I did, and then when I was done with it, I would go into each of these. These are the targets that were generated out of there, and I would just open it up. Actually, this is a bad example because it's already been stripped, so I'll generate another one. Let's go to export. This is for the front, so I'm just going to call this front left, and I'll just overwrite. Yeah, so front left target curve, txt, save. Yes, I'm overwriting it. And then when you open that, let's get that open again, front left target curve, you'll see there's a bunch of information at the top. So I've gone through this already in MultEQ-X, and it turns out that if you just take it from 100 hertz or whatever you start with, there may be some weird dips and stuff, and I'll show that in MultEQ-X in a second. But the first thing you want to do is just get rid of all of that header information. But what I do is I actually put 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros, and 0, 0, 0, 0. As your main thing, and I do a quick cursory check, just make sure nothing's really above 5 dB boost, dB above the middle line, the 0, or -5, and most of these do that. And when I go through again, if I go through again, I'll likely try to get those target curves, or get the harming curve, or whichever house curve I'm using, as much under the curve as possible, so that I get as much negative as possible, because that's really, you want to reduce if you can, instead of doing any boosting. And last thing, for whatever reason, this process created these huge peaks at the end, so I just get rid of that. Make sure you save it. I had to move it between machines using iCloud. That's why I've got the 2 folders here. So I saved it, and then I've got it over here. And then on my other machine, I'll jump over there and show you the Audyssey MultEQ-X. So I'm just on my other machine that's remoted into my Windows machine, because this is just a rinky-dink Chromebook. And it's what is connected to my AVR for MultEQ-X. So I just connected to the AVR. It's at the last step, because you can either connect at the start, and use the connect here, or you can connect after you've finalized it. Because as soon as you upload all of your settings into your AVR, it disconnects nicely, so you can jump right in and start playing all your demo tracks and tests and stuff. So again, I'm just going to jump right into the design curve and show you guys all of the curves that I've imported. So I started with that baseline that we configured before that had everything disabled. So essentially what I went through is all of the front center surrounds and whatnot. I turned off the disabled cutoff mode. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the, at least not shown in Audyssey MultEQ-X, the cutoff crossovers happening. So I had to override them all to, I just did 80 for all of them, because that's a little bit of a sanity check. And then I'm still playing around with disabling and enabling auto leveling. Actually, I could probably just get rid of that again, but it looks like most of them are disabled Oh, and the subwoofer. Subwoofer I haven't done anything with. It's the only one because I kind of have a mini DSP-like setup where I have 4 subs running off the one subwoofer out. So I want to kind of treat it as perfect. All the AVR needs to know, all MultEQ-X needs to know about the subwoofers is that it's one subwoofer signal and it's one delay, one distance, and then I handle all the rest internally. So I leave that disabled, but all the other ones I override to an 80. And then as you can see here, I've actually never had this many filters in place in MultEQ-X. I've gone in and front left, target curve, put it in there, front right. The video that the guy showed summed the 2 front ones. So essentially, instead of doing 2 separate ones, he did a bunch of extra steps in REW to combine them as a single one, and then just applied it to both the front left and the front right. I was like, it's easier for me just to have 2 curves and just to have them exported as 2 filters and put into MultEQ-X. So I did that. I'm not doing too much with keeping reference and flat separate. I don't care to play too much with those right now. So you just go in, you go import target, easy enough. You just choose which channel you're getting that file from, and then you go in and you find that that target file that you generated and took the information out of, got rid of the header information and got rid of that really big bit at the end. You open it and then it'll automatically load it and apply it, and then you can go through any of these and just double check your work. Center target is only on the center, and you see that this is compensating for those dips that I saw in the RTA readings for each of those channels. And then you can actually go into the filter settings, and the filter settings are fine and pretty straightforward. Again, I couldn't really figure out where some of the roll-offs were happening, and the curves weren't awesome. They had some, because they were compensating for the natural roll-off of the speakers, they were creating quite a bit of the low frequency spikes, huge increases in the curve, and I didn't want that happening to my speakers, you know, because that's where you damage your speakers, with those low frequency boosts. And so I went from manual. I'll hit manual here, and you can kind of see where the roll off was kind of happening, the crossover from the design target curve. But then I was seeing some other stuff over here, and I really wasn't comfortable with that. So I just manually set it to 80, and then that way I just kind of had a, it does a lot less of that. I haven't done any fully enabled tests of what that looks like, where the crossovers are, running them with the crossovers on but the subs off, running it with the subs but not the speakers, just to see where those interactions happen. But it sounds pretty good. It sounds really integrated, and the bass I had to boost because MultEQ-X is just like most Audyssey, and it just takes away a lot of that low end. And I didn't play with dynamic EQ, but that's the next step, is see what that sounds like with all of this. So essentially I went through and I went manual 80 and 20,000 hertz at the top end for all the different ones. And then, like I did with all of the speakers prior, I left the subwoofer 1 as completely turned off. Just make sure when you do this that you do it for both the reference and the flat. It's kind of a pain that there's not just a do the same for both. I'd hate to have done a bunch of stuff in reference and then left some stuff in flat, forgot about it, and then accidentally switched the different target curves and then done some damage to my system. So I looked at that. Another thing I had to do, and maybe this is a bug, but maybe it's just a feature, quote unquote, for MultEQ-X, but the bass management. So for one, I had to do manual here, because when I was doing my bass line, everything was large, so I could get full spectrum, no crossovers, no roll off. But I pretty much had to go through all of the ones that had options for large, switch them to small, and then switching certain ones over to small would then excuse me, allow for other ones to be switched to small. And then I had to go back and forth doing this for all of them, just to make sure that they were all over to small, so that they would actually get those crossovers. Excuse me. So you know, there may be an easy way to do that, but that's the way that I found I was comfortable with it. Another thing, I noticed that the subwoofer was kind of at the delay boundary at 22 feet. I think it maxes out at 24 feet. I'm not sure why that is. I may have to go back into my DSP for the subs and see if there's any sort of delay added or latency issues there. I've had issues with that with my setup. All right, so once all of that is done, easy part of this whole process is now I actually, like before it was disabled because I'm trying to run everything without any EQ. Now with this REW manual per speaker setup using the UMic-1, I enable the MultEQ-X. I'm just going to set it to reference, doesn't really matter. I'm not going to do dynamic volume, dynamic EQ, or low frequency containment yet, and just transfer those files over to the AVR. I'm going to do it one more time because I did change that one thing with the center channel speaker. And you'll see this every single time because of the approach of doing one kind of dummy calibration run for the distances, but then ignoring all of them. So just click OK to this, and then you get the typical blue bar time. It will generate, so it's really just calculating and generating all the final versions of the filters, and then you select your preset. As I mentioned before, I've been targeting the preset 2. Haven't done a comparison back and forth between preset 1, which is using the kind of auto in MultEQ-X and the calibrated microphone, but just my initial impressions are that it's more present. There were some songs, and again, I haven't done any SPL comparisons to make sure that I'm always listening at the same level, because you know, louder things sound better. But when I was listening, I did notice a little bit better separation and resolution of some of the songs. There were some cymbals and some Atmos tracks that really popped for me. So once this is done, it'll be on the AVR. And then you can test it. If you're like me, it's always good to have a demo track, a bunch of familiar songs. I've got one on Apple Music, one for stereo. Good indication of how well your mains are doing, how well they create a phantom center when you're listening to stereo content, if you're not doing up mixing. And also a bunch of Atmos music tracks. I didn't listen to didn't watch and listen to the race scene in Ready Player One, but that's another go-to for me. I love the sound of those coins as he's collecting them during the race. And also when King Kong comes in, it's a great test of the integration with your subwoofer system. So again, thanks for following with me through all of that. A huge shout out to HD Movie Source for his extensive video on putting this together using REW, using the UMic-1, using the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit, and using Audyssey MultEQ-X to put all of this together. I think the results are amazing. I haven't played with Direct Live because I don't have a modern Denon or Marantz receiver, but I can imagine it's as good as a system like that, and much more control. I'm in heaven being able to tweak all of this stuff. Also, big shout out to Joe and Tel and Chana at Techno Dad for just the great toolkit to be able to do that. Trying to do ASIO for all or any of these other things through REW to get the right test patterns into your Atmos speaker channels is just quite a bit of a pain. So just one small part of the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit is the periodic pink noise that can be used to great effect to calibrate your system. So yeah, take a look at all those tools. I'll post links on how to the other videos and all the tools that are involved, and also where to pick up the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. They also have a great Discord for that product where you can go in and ask questions, and the guys actually are there and jump in and help you out. So thanks for listening so far, and if you have any questions, comment below. Let me know if you've tried something similar, or if you suggest I do it totally different. I love the feedback. I'm always tweaking and trying new things. So thanks. Have a great night. Outro music. Thanks for watching. Smash the like.